So we talked with the design partner this Tuesday, and then we kind of like revised it. It's basically we still stick with the grid of 13 feet times 13 feet, but like we just slightly tweaked the dimensions so to fit with the structural like the grids that we have like kind of provided here. And then for these brown hatches would be where and how large the extent of the module is. So it's also kind of like the overall dimension is also tied in each of them. So you can also have a look on the mirror board, which is the same document here. And then like since we tried like to fit all the modules into the 13 times 13 feet, because of that the previous version that we showed you last time is kind of like slightly smaller, and now like those kind of like pipe duct spaces are kind of like disappear because of that. But I guess there is still buffers or like spaces for us to kind of like do all the pipings and routings. For example, there is still some kind of like these spaces. So I guess it's possible to do all the pipe pumplings to transfer downstairs. And then also for the section, which we this time we try to include like a crawling space that the design partner also kind of mentioned, like how the building should like do the maintenance and stuff. So we just kind of like put a more like a standard like 4 feet depth of like a basement or subfloor kind of space underneath, which will be shown a little bit more in details on plan. While like these would be the modules in the hatch, and for here we try to keep it like the we don't want to change like the overall floor height of each floor, like floor to floor we still kind of maintain 10 feet clearance. So like the only deduction we have is kind of like reduce like the head space inside the module. So there would be like an 8 feet kind of vertical clearance for all the modules that like the ceiling slab and also like the floor slab that we have to consider here. And the other like the only this area is actually not like a part of the module, so I made too much hatch for that. But like for this case where there's nothing above the module, would actually be like a normal kind of ceiling slab or like places where something like a drainage or like the roofing kind of stuff would happen here. Just like here, as you can see, like not all the ceiling space would have what is it the modules above. So for this case, it's just for the matter of like trying to make a smooth uniform kind of like roof line, just to make sure all the levels are the same. And yes, and for the other kind of like areas, for example, the podium, which does not have like modules above or below, like there's also like is it joist or like kind of like a ceiling beam that kind of like follows like the geometry, vertical geometry that is given by the module. So like there would be like a basic kind of 1 feet deep of floor slab with a maximum of let's say 1 feet of like a beam underneath just to make sure the support works. So for this case, it's also kind of like a demonstration of how it like kind of continues the development, not to give like so much kind of changes in terms of like the ceiling height. And so this would be the skylight, and then like where would like all those beams would stop to kind of make it like a frame. And for this one, that the red areas are where we think that the crawling space would be. So like so there would be like 2 major entrances from like the courtyards with the access panels. So underneath like all the basic kind of thoughts behind like where all these should like locate are like where the module sits and how they connect to, let's say, a 1 point of like access to the ground, as well as where like the most important as engineering team mentioned last week, like there will be like a water system or some sort. So I guess like the most intensive work would also be here, but I'm not sure if like laundry also kind of meets that kind of need. But of course, like if it's necessary, then we can sure get in. But I'm not sure if that may also kind of change like how the foundation kind of looks, because you know, like after including all these to make sure that there's like a continuous path to do the maintenance. So like you can see the footprint is kind of like wide in some aspect perspective. But yeah, but for here we just try to connect all the modules that is kind of built on the ground. And then for this section, you can see like how they are trying to go through all the spaces. But I guess all these are just kind of like built in terms something like a small columns under the floor slab. So yeah, so just engineering team, like if I just want to know like if you have like any special kind of comments or concerns about like the crawling space, like for example, if the depth of the maintenance kind of clearance is not enough, or like the slab has to be thicker or something like that.
So I think, Jared, you go.
Oh, go on ahead.
So I don't think it's gonna be a slab for the crawl space. It's gonna be like a raised floor. It's gonna be framed out of wood. So possibly pressure treated 2x12 floor joists, supported by maybe like 4x4. So 4x12 supported by 4x4 posts.
Sorry,
so we're gonna end up
the 12 you mean for like the thickness or like the
yeah. The thickness of the
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess
and the width is 4.
Okay, so I guess that means like the indication I put here is correct, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the 12 inches is for insulation. It can be like shallower, but like to get enough insulation index, it has to be 12. And then yeah, the posts are gonna be supported by concrete
Yes.
pad flings. So like so it's doable. It's quite typical, not like in like new buildings, but like in old wood houses, they do a lot of like raised floors. And then I think you might need to add a concrete footing, a slab.
So you mean like the slab that supports all these legs here?
You don't need a slab at the crawl space, but like right next to the crawl space, right? You also have the structure above. So I'll show you. I'll do a markup, and then I'll show you where the slab would be.
Yeah. That would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I need to add.
Okay. So Jared, is that there is something you would like to comment on?
Oh, I don't have anything further to comment on. It sounds like
Yeah.
everything is good. Yeah.
Okay. So last time you guys mentioned like about like the water systems as kind of like would like to place in this like storage space. So is there like an exact kind of areas or stuff that I can try to fit in just to just to put for like the to make the layout be more kind of realistic, because this is still kind of like a rough one. So
So you're asking for if there's like an exact area for, say, if the storage were to be like our kind of like main water system hub, or
yeah, or like any kind of utilities that you think is necessary, like to indicate on the plans, just to showcase like when we're going to present, then maybe let's say the relationship between the water collection points to like where they are processed inside this property and something like that. And I think that may be useful, like yeah, just to show more like enough information for the juries or whoever read the plan, the drawings.
okay, for sure. Yeah, I don't have the answers to those at the moment, but I'm gonna jot them down, and I think Adriano can help us with that as well.
Yes,
So you wanted to just make sure that are there any like specific, utilities that are included in that storage space, and also if there's like a required area for that equipment?
yes, for sure. Like for example, let's say I think you I'm not sure if that's kind of like critical or not, but like I think you can also start to figure out like what types of electrical appliances or like the plumbing, like all like what kind of models or like types of stoves or kind of utilities or sanitary fitments that all these units uses, and as well as like the numbers of washing machine or dryers. Then I think with all this information, then you guys can calculate like the actual, like the more exact amount of like electricity or water consumption that you guys can use, and try to like evaluate against like the renewable energy that we kind of like generate from the solar or any kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, further specifying, the different types of more efficient appliances will definitely help us in terms of, the environmental impact kind of, when we do the presentation and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely have that written down, and we'll keep in mind. We'll definitely have some stuff for the water system, what we're using, stoves, trying to be electric to kind of reduce those natural gas end uses. So I got all that written down, and yeah, that will definitely be useful in defining as we move forward.
Yes, and I think the plans have like indicated like the rough number of all those, like let's say the toilets or water basins that you need, so you can just follow what is existing on plans and kind of do your calculation and um, just find the models that kind of fit our desires. And you can, I think you can at the end you make a list of all these kind of like materials and appliances you guys selected, and then just to share among all of us for our information. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So just to recap, so you're the place where we would have the water utilities and equipment, that's the rectangular section above the storage unit, right? Or is that
I
just
think
like
as
a
long as
whole?
all those kind of fit inside, of course, like the laundry space is, these two are kind of flexible to make the partition kind of shift. Yes.
For sure. And while we were on the topic of the renewable energy generation, I was able to, once you're able to like put these plans on a Google Drive, we can recalculate the area. I recalculated the area and factored that into the solar power that would be generated. I think the drawing was put January 29, but I'm looking forward to having the updated one.
Yes.
My a little concern, or maybe something that might be a little tricky, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what Sterling had mentioned was that, if we're facing the building, we're facing east, right? So that's like the direction that, if we were looking right at the building, we're in east direction, right?
You mean like the main facade? It's like actually this side is west facing. Like so I get as I remember, like most of the window openings are kind of like big window openings are west facing. So I guess you
Oh, okay.
can at the same time, for example, like the common area here, like the largest kind of big windows or openings are west facing. So it's kind of I know it's kind of like tricky because like the west facing side of this lot is where the street, like the main street is, and of course we want to share more feel for that. And maybe you can also like have maybe figure out some ideas or like systems of like how maybe sun shading devices can be added indoor for this case, especially for the west facing side. Let's say like curtains, blinds, or I don't know, like because for this, let's say for this building edge, it's actually hitting like the limit of where we can actually build stuff. Like there are clearances between the side boundaries. So for the other west facing windows like this one, so ideally we can also install something like a more passive kind of attachments. Let's say some kind of sun shading device outside the window in order to provide more shading and reduce the like radiation that goes through into the building. But for these two, I think it's kind of difficult. So yeah, it also applies to others. So I think like how the design of these kind of external devices would be our scope, like architecture team scope, but like the one that's interior, I think that would be your case to figure it out.
Yeah, as well as, being selective about the windows that we use could be beneficial in that
Yeah,
department.
yeah,
And I think,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. And so I have that jotted down as well. So the front face of the house of the attached housing unit is essentially like west facing.
Yeah.
So if we were to kind of like be there and we're looking at like the front, we're looking
Yes.
at the west facing windows. And so
Yeah.
east would be that way, north would be to the
Yeah.
left.
Basically, east side of this complex is facing the lot next to it, which is like it should be like a car park or something, which is not something that is kind of easily visible
Right.
at some point, and not really that pleasant. And this side, like the south side, would actually be some kind of like neighboring kind of building lot, which is already kind of built structure, and this north facing is also facing the street. So like the
Right.
most clear, like the cleared view would be the west and the north side.
Okay, yeah. So as I was looking at the cross-section view, I guess this is something that we would have to look into because the left roof, ideally you'd want them to be like the solar panel array to be facing like south facing, right?
Mhm.
So if you were to kind of go to the section view real quick, where it
Okay.
had like the roof and everything. Yeah, so were you guys still thinking about having the roof like flat with like no tilt and just have the solar panels on there? Or
Yeah.
were you guys still trying to add like some type of like slopage or something like that? Because I remember, I think engineering A, I think someone had mentioned like there being like a 1/4 inch by like 12 or something like that. slope?
Yes.
Yeah, like 2%. I think it's very low.
Yeah, I think in terms of like this level of like drawing representation, I think we won't put that kind of inclination, but of course when it comes to like design for like drainage or some sort, we would add that, let's say, to put like the slope of the inclination. But since like the scale, like it would kind of like minimal to see the difference, so we usually won't kind of draw that kind of slope here unless it's a detailed drawing.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because tweaking that tilt can provide just a little bit in terms of the like power generation that the solar panels are using. So I think yeah, as long as we're clear on that. So I guess I can put 2% as my tilt technically, or should I just stick with 0-degree tilt, I guess, for our current needs and calculations? I mean, it's minute enough that you wouldn't like need to include it in the drawings, for instance, but I guess
I think you should put it as like a 0 inclination at first, because like the slight degree of change, I'm not sure. I think that may be confusing if like something that relate to the slope changes.
right.
Especially
Okay,
when it's not flat.
for sure. Yeah, and so like the roof on the left-hand side, it's not there would be like some type of shading during some times of the day, right? From the roof on like the right-hand side, I
You
guess.
mean this one?
Like covering over it, I guess.
Let me hop back to the plan. So I guess this area would have more shading for sure, because like these taller structure kind of block it, as this is like the northern kind of areas. So I guess all like all of the panels or like solar catching devices should be like on the top roof. Or even if it's not enough, maybe I'm not sure. Maybe you guys can propose it.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, or maybe
Yeah.
you can even take some areas of the flat roof if that's necessary, because I know it's kind of big, and yeah.
It could provide, I don't know about having like solar panels mounted that could be used for providing shading. I've seen that for like parking lots and stuff like that, but we already have the podium covering our parking lot. But yeah, I can definitely do a 0-degree recalculation with the roof. And if there's any kind of covering over it, that might be like a nitty-gritty detail that I guess if we have time we could tweak. But getting numbers is important, and if they're round numbers, it's an estimate. So
Yeah, sure. So any other members have concerns or something you need from the layout design to do your own job?
I feel like we need to define the material assemblies.
Oh yeah,
Next steps.
like sorry, but the material assembly you mean is like the material selection you use for this building, let's say the wood, the floor tiling, or the walls? Is it stuff like that, or it's just like
Yeah, I think that's what Adriano needs for the next step. I don't know if you guys saw it. He sent me an email that was asking for like the general materials we're using. I don't think he even needs specific quantities at this point, but just the materials so he can start that analysis. I mean, obviously we might change the materials based on the analysis, but maybe we could just give him the very standard like wall assemblies, floor and ceiling, foundation, I guess now that we're doing the crawl space, and maybe the structure, which is the structure steel, is that right?
I think most of these are in wood, like wood frames, wood joists and stuff, except the podium part that covers the car park spaces here, which is the eastern side, and all these areas are in wood. And is there any like initial thoughts or developments from the materials that is it engineering team? I forgot.
Oh, I've chosen some like basic material in the perspective of architecture design,
Mm-hmm.
and I put a sticker next to the plan that you put in the whiteboard.
So Alan, can you talk a little bit about that, or do you have like a list or like images that you can share to us? At least like we can grab a rough view, like what we're expecting to see, and let people see if there's like any comments or concerns.
Yeah, I put a sticker on the whiteboard. Yes.
Okay.
I did that from the perspective of interior design, but I'm not sure is that really.
I was wondering what the UA wood floor is.
And so yeah,
What does the UA stand for?
it's a kind of like wood. Sorry. You can do some research for that. It's just a kind of like wood floor that can be reused and recycled.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what we can do a little bit more up from here is I think there is like resources like to find a EPD kind of fact sheet. So I think like that may be useful, like to kind of summarize the details of the material that you're using, and then with the aid of the plans and sections to estimate the surface area or amount of the materials that we have to use to pass on and do the calculations. So I can show you, let's see. There's actually yeah, I'll try to upload like an example of those kind of like EPD kind of fact sheet, but if there's any other issues that have to discuss, you can hop on, because I need some time to dig it out from my files.
So I guess while we're waiting, I'll keep this brief. Just like a quick update for our engineering B team. Yesterday we had a meeting, and we were just we're still trying to work out and try to make sense of the various different types of DOE energy codes and requirements. If you recall, on the challenge rules in the attached housing section for new construction, there's like this link to DOE kind of list of different like energy, I think, requirements and some examples and how we're able to get to zero energy. I'll see if I can pull it up real quick. I'll share my screen real quick. So yeah, so like in the challenge rules under attached housing, this is the January update for this. And they have like, the zero energy ready home national program requirements here. And, you know, from Sterling was able to take a look at this, and we're gonna, as a team, engineering B, look at this as well and try and make sense of it. There are various different types of things listed here, some of them more general than we would have liked. You know, so we've been trying to go through different codes, trying to see what's really relevant for our project. I know definitely since we have our, you know, semifinal date coming up, and we're going to need to update our project summary. It would be helpful not only to have the HER score listed. So that's kind of like our score that kind of lets us know how, like, I guess, close we are to being zero energy. If you see here in this document, the home energy rating system index, you know, so it basically tells us, like, as far as energy efficiency, where our home stands, and it's based on a code and whatnot. And I downloaded the software that could be used for it. It was provided through Solar Decathlon in our login. So what we were thinking after talking was there's a lot of like parameters and stuff that's needed in order to get the HER score. So maybe it doesn't have to be, say, after this meeting, but maybe next week we could, you know, maybe schedule a meeting, you know, for people who are able. It would be great to have some representation from our team and engineering A, and we could kind of sit down and go through putting all the parameters and stuff for the HER score. It can be a PM team meeting, or it can be open invite. I'm open to ideas, but I think definitely getting the HER score was something that would give us as engineering B a better sense of, you know, where we're at in terms of energy efficiency and what we need to do to meet those requirements, and then try to exceed those as well to really stand out. So we can work out the details of that in a Discord or something like that, but I just wanted to put that out there. And likely, if not after this meeting, maybe a meeting next week, we can get that situated.
And maybe you could post just all the kind of parameters or variables you need on the Miro board, and maybe flag the ones that we don't currently have, or if that's the majority of them, then flag the ones that we do have.
Okay, for sure. Yeah.
Just before the meeting, so people know, like, if there is something that needs to be prepped, we can do it.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, I can definitely prepare that. I'll go through the simulation on my, not simulation, but the software on my computer, and try and go through and identify those and bring them to y'all next week. So yeah, appreciate it.
Looking at the Alan's list, it does look pretty good in terms of different materials. I think we still need to maybe address the insulation type, and maybe a little more like the full assemblies, but I bet Adriano can probably get started with this stuff, so I can send it along to him since he's not here today. Is someone else preparing something, or was Hayden doing something?
I think Hayden was gonna pull up something, but it's gonna take.
Oh yeah. Sorry. So I just put some kind of like examples of like the fact sheet that I think that may be useful for engineering team. You can see like it's just an example for, let's say, one particular type of flooring. So even though it's kind of like industry average kind of information, but I guess you can, let's say, when we sort out all the materials you use, like wood floor, paintings and stuff, or even steel, then we can grab these information, like the energy that are consumed, like to calculate kind of like embodied carbon footprint, or like I'm not sure like what the term for that, but like to trace like yeah, I'm not sure if like this information is useful, but sure you can like engineering team can look for that. I think these especially for those materials like windows or insulation kind of materials, that I think that would be kind of like crucial, like to step forward and at least to get an idea like the heat gain or heat insulation part of the building for that. And the other kind of materials would be like factors that may affect the sustainability performance. Yes. So I can, let's see. I can post a link onto Miro board, which should have like many kinds of products and systems that the industry kind of provides their information. It's like an open source platform. And to grab the materials you guys wanted. Yeah, right next to its hyperlink. SM transparency catalog. Yeah. So any other architectural or system kind of concerns or issues would like to bring up?
No, just a reminder, we have meetings with Todd on Thursdays, and then we're going to do the plant food meeting again this Tuesday. And Kaiji told me that she could attend this time, so we can get some structural feedback as well. But if we can send Amy like the plans a bit ahead of time, that would probably be good. So whenever you feel comfortable with them, Hayden, you can either send them to me or I can give you Amy's email, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, and I guess just for us moving forward, we plan on, like I mentioned, trying to identify the parameters for her score. Sterling had mentioned there were some other metrics used to kind of calculate more energy efficiency. Like, for example, it's mentioned like EUI, for instance, dealing with like the source energy and I think the site energy, which might have some implications in terms of like being connected to environmental impact or how we're getting our energy. Perhaps we were possibly looking into, we had our mini split heat pump system for our HVAC. That was kind of ideal because, with heat pumps, they're electric and what have you. We were looking into possible uses of like ground source heat pumps. Sterling had mentioned that a group previously used some kind of geothermal heat pump system. It was able to do well. It is an opportunity to be a little bit more innovative in terms of that mechanical design, although, there are questions about, it being higher in cost to implement. So we're definitely looking into that. Hayden had mentioned, with electrical, really identifying, the plug loads and, more energy efficient, technologies and devices that we can incorporate into the attached housing unit, so the Energy Star rated appliances and what have you. And with plumbing as well, we talked about, having some type of gray water repurposing system, identifying the type of water heater we would use, which should be able to help with Hayden's question regarding that storage space and that laundry space, and seeing what we would need and if that's a realistic amount of space. And I also have written here from our notes that, the EPA has like a water sense program. I'm not too familiar with the details. This is something that Sterling put. But, these are things within the MEPs that we're working on and we're going to be looking into in the coming week or so. So just a quick update. But I don't have any further questions regarding the design. Just looking forward to getting the updated drawings and what have you. And hopefully we'll be able to attend the prefab meeting and the meeting with Professor Lynch. I wasn't able to this past week, and neither was Sterling, but I should be able to attend next week. I think it would be great to listen in.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was pretty sure one last week. We didn't have a lot to show Todd, at least. Most of Amy's feedback was just we had to restructure the grid, so that's what Hayden's doing. Cool. Does anyone else have anything? Or are we good?
All right, I think that's it, right? So have a good weekend, everyone.
Yeah,
All right, have a
thanks,
good weekend,
guys.
y'all.
Keep the good work. See you at those meetings.
You.
Later.